Everyone, my name is Kristen Schmidt and I did my capstone project on young athletes. I chose Donegal Braves football and cheer as my service learning project. I volunteered my hours with the 7 and 8-year-old children on the football team. Oftentimes, football is viewed as a fun extracurricular activity, but it was important to teach the kids about proper safety with wearing equipment, what symptoms may be associated with injuries such as concussions, and the importance of proper hydration during practices. Along with this, it is also important for us to eat well, which oftentimes 7 and 8-year-old children do not like to do. I was able to do this and volunteer at the Donegal Braves football and cheer because I knew a personal contact that was involved in the Football Association and expressed the need for extra help. Myself and the coaches discussed what the young football players needed to learn and how I was able to help them. Practices and games were planned out where I was able to teach and incorporate these lessons into practices. From a social perspective, I was able to help educate the young children how to put on their football equipment. This also led to me to be able to teach them what could happen if they didn't wear a helmet or shoulder pads, etc. Things like concussions and broken bones were discussed as potential risks of not wearing the equipment. I was also able to support the children through wins and losses and be a support system emotionally for them. From a political standpoint, obesity is a huge issue across America. Many initiatives have been produced, such as nutrition programs that Michelle Obama has put in place for many schools to help children learn and understand proper nutrition. This hopes to decrease the chances of childhood obesity and then decrease the chances of adulthood obesity. Economically, extracurricular activities are often not free. Donegal football is not free, but coaches and the Football Association are willing to work with families to cover costs so that children are able to participate. Children are also not able to drive and get themselves to practices and games, obviously, so the children must be able to rely on parents, grandparents, friends to get to and from the events. And this is obviously not cheap. Culturally, there are many different ethnicities on the football team. This can lead to cultural differences with disciplining the team and how football is viewed within that culture. The coaches are very aware and knowledgeable on this. All of the players on the team, however, are 7 and 8-year-old boys who live in the Donegal School District. In the future, it may be beneficial to have parents more involved in proper placement of equipment. Although they were briefly taught, it would be beneficial for the children and the parents to be responsible for proper placement rather than the coaches and myself. Concussion training was also a huge component. More education that allows kids and parents to refresh what was taught should be also sent home. Just much like discharge instructions that we give patients from the hospital, we attach some education of why they were there. So this might also be beneficial so that this paperwork that is sent home, parents and children can review it and go over the signs and symptoms so that they're very aware of what could happen. Lastly, the association should also consider having a healthcare volunteer who practices in games to help with first aid needs so that coaches can focus on advancing football skills instead of focusing on first aid and whatnot. My learning objectives are, the first one is by the end of the project, the learner will teach 3 ways to ensure safety during football practices and games to players. This was demonstrated by teaching players how to place safety equipment prior to practice and games. Concussion training was also completed with parents and children. This included what signs and symptoms may indicate that an injury may be a concussion and need further medical attention. And I actually have a YouTube link here. This is a video that the kids actually watched at practice and encouraged the parents to watch at home as well. So let me just play this here for you.
This is a concussion. A concussion is a type of brain injury. You can't see it. You may not have a bump, a bruise, or even a scratch on your head. All that has to happen for you to get a concussion is for your brain to move around inside your skull. You don't even have to get hit on the head. A jolt or hard slam to your body can make your brain bounce back and forth against the inside of your skull. Getting a concussion doesn't always mean you get knocked out. Less than 1 in 10 people who get a concussion ever lose consciousness. And you can get a concussion in any sport or physical activity, even skateboarding, biking, or snowboarding. The number of sports and recreation concussions every year could be as high as 3.8 million. That's more than the total number of hairs on every monkey ever shot into space in the last 50 years. So what do you do if you feel like you've got a concussion? You could have symptoms like confusion, headache, dizziness, nausea, fatigue, or a general foggy feeling, like your brain has a bad Wi-Fi connection. It's important to report it to your coach, your athletic trainer, your parents, or even a teammate right away. Otherwise, you may end up like Mike. Mike played football. Mike was the team's star player. But after he got a concussion, he continued to play as if he was okay. Bad idea. Since then, things got kind of funny. You thought he was fine, but Mike started having headaches and had a hard time doing the things he used to do, like playing video games. Mike should have told his coach, athletic trainer, or parent and got himself out of the game right away. If you think you may have had a concussion, it's important to see a doctor or a medical professional with experience in sports concussion and not return to activities until they say it's okay. Your brain needs to rest in order to heal. If you don't rest, you could wind up like Jessica. Jessica was an all-star softball player, straight A's, busy social life. In her last game, Jessica slid head first into home plate, and her coach took her out of the game because she thought she got a concussion. But she didn't make the right decisions after the game. She didn't get checked out by a healthcare professional, tell her parents about her symptoms, or take the time to rest her mind and her body. Pretty soon, things got weird for her too. Her social life suffered, and she started to forget things, like her date with her boyfriend. So if you don't recognize a concussion, report the symptoms, and take the time to rest, you could miss out on a lot in school, in sports, and in your social life. Concussions can make you moody, too. You might get angry, cry, or act just plain weird for no reason. And you may not even enjoy doing the things you used to like doing. Take the time to rest up completely after a concussion. That may mean no driving, TV, internet, texting, or video games. It's not fun, but it will get you better faster. So, if you think you might have a concussion, remember to 1. Recognize. Know the symptoms and signs of concussion for yourself and your teammates. 2. Report. Tell your coach, athletic trainer, or parents about your symptoms. Get out of the game. Staying in could make it worse for you and your team. And 3. Rest. That means taking time off from sports, your usual activities, and maybe even schoolwork until your doctor or other medical professional says it's okay. But don't worry, your teammates will step up while you're out, and your teachers can help you. Check out the website for more info on how to get over a concussion and get back in the game.
So, like I said before, that was just a little video that the kids actually watched on a cell phone at practice, and they were actually very interested in it. And it was interesting to see once they came back after other practices how they reiterated what some of this video said. So they actually did learn from it. My second objective was by the end of the project, the learner will create a lesson on proper hydration while being physically active. Hydration was demonstrated at practices that had multiple group stations. After each station, the players were provided with an 8-ounce cup of water and educated on how much water they should be drinking during practices and games. And this was another thing that they soaked right in and were interested in. My last objective is by the end of the project, the learner will identify 2 knowledge deficits in players in the football program pertaining to healthy living. This was completed by observing that most players did not understand what they should and should not eat prior to games and practices. It was also observed by football players unable to put equipment on by themselves or being able to explain why equipment was worn in the first place. Reflections. This project allowed me to observe how young children viewed football and how they participate in teaching, and how I participate in teaching safety in sports, along with proper nutrition and exercise in children. They were all very receptive of the information that I gave them and wanted to learn. In the end, they were more educated not only with football, but also on living a healthy lifestyle. Personally, it allowed me to be more aware of the education that was needed for both football players and parents. As a healthcare professional, these things seem obvious to me, but it's important to realize that not everyone has the same training as I do. It also made me realize that to properly educate this audience, common terms should be used. Bigger medical terms not only confuses the children, but parents may also not understand the information. I can use this in my own practice as patients may not always understand their diagnosis in medical terms. So it is important for me to evaluate where their education needs are and use terms that they understand. Overall, I had a great time volunteering with these kids, and it was difficult to even say goodbye as my volunteer hours ended. I still actually go to some of their games and try to keep up with all of them. So it was actually a lot of fun. And then that's just my resource for the YouTube video. Alrighty, and I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.